Letter from R. E. Howard to P. S. Miller by Robert E. Howard. Lockbox 313, Cross Plains, Texas, March 10th, 1936. Dear Mr. Miller, I feel indeed honored that you and Dr. Clark should be so interested in Conan as to work out an outline of his career and a map of his environs. Both are surprisingly accurate, considering the vagueness of the data you had to work with. I have the original map, that is the one I drew up when I first started writing about Conan, around here somewhere, and I'll see if I can't find it and let you have a look at it. It includes only the countries west of Vilayet and north of Kush. I've never attempted to map the southern and eastern kingdoms, though I have a fairly clear outline of their geography in my mind. However, in writing about them I feel a certain amount of license, since the inhabitants of the western Hyborian nations were about as ignorant concerning the peoples and countries of the south and east as the people of medieval Europe were ignorant of Africa and Asia. In writing about the western Hyborian nations I feel confined within the limits of known and inflexible boundaries and territories, but in fictionalizing the rest of the world, I feel able to give my imagination freer play. That is, having adopted a certain conception of geography and ethnology, I feel compelled to abide by it, in the interests of consistency. My conception of the East and South is not so definite or so arbitrary. Concerning Kush, however, it is one of the Black Kingdoms south of Stygia, the northernmost, in fact, and has given its name to the whole southern coast. Thus, when a Hyborian speaks of Kush, he is generally speaking not of the kingdom itself, one of many such kingdoms, but of the Black Coast in general. And he is likely to speak of any black man as a Kushite, whether he happens to be a Kashani, Darfari, Puntan, or Kushite proper. This is natural, since the Kushites were the first black men with whom the Hyborians came in contact, Barracan pirates trafficking with and raiding them. As for Conan's eventual fate, frankly I can't predict it. In writing these yarns, I've always felt less as creating them than as if I were simply chronicling his adventures as he told them to me. That's why they skip about so much, without following a regular order. The average adventurer, telling tales of a wild life at random, seldom follows any ordered plan, but narrates episodes widely separated by space and years as they occur to him. Your outline follows his career as I have visualized it pretty closely. The differences are minor. As you deduct, Conan was about 17 when he was introduced to the public in the Tower of the Elephant. While not fully matured, he was riper than the average civilized youth at that age. He was born on a battlefield during a fight between his tribe and a horde of raiding Vanir. The country claimed by and roved over by his clan lay in the northwest of Samaria, but Conan was of mixed blood, although a purebred Cimmerian. His grandfather was a member of a southern tribe who had fled from his own people because of a blood feud, and after long wanderings, eventually taken refuge with the people of the north. He had taken part in many raids into the Hyborian nations in his youth, before his flight, and perhaps it was the tales he told of those softer countries which roused in Conan, as a child, a desire to see them. There are many things concerning Conan's life of which I am not certain myself. I do not know, for instance, when he got his first sight of civilized people. It might have been at Venarium, or he might have made a peaceable visit to some frontier town before that. At Venarium, he was already a formidable antagonist, though only 15. He stood 6 feet and weighed 180 pounds, though he lacked much of having his full growth. There is the space of about a year between Venarium and his entrance into the thief city of Zamora. During this time, he returned to the northern territories of his tribe, and made his first journey beyond the bounds of Samaria. This, strange to say, was north instead of south. Why or how I am not certain, but he spent some months among a tribe of the Aesir, fighting with the Vanir and the Hyperboreans, and developing a hate for the latter, which lasted all his life and later affected his policies as king of Aquilonia. Captured by them, he escaped southward and came into Zamora in time to make his debut in print. I'm not sure that the adventure chronicled in Rogues in the House occurred in Zamora. The presence of opposing factions of politics would seem to indicate otherwise, since Zamora was an absolute despotism where differing political opinions were not tolerated. I am of the opinion that the city was one of the small city-states lying just west of Zamora and into which Conan had wandered after leaving Zamora. Shortly after this, he returned for a brief period to Samaria, and there were other returns to his native land from time to time. The chronological order of his adventures is about as you have worked it out, except that they covered a little more time. Conan was about 40 when he seized the crown of Aquilonia, and was about 44 or 45 at the time of the Hour of the Dragon. He had no male heir at that time because he had never bothered to formally make some woman his queen, and the sons of concubines, of which he had a goodly number, were not recognized as heirs to the throne. He was, I think, king of Aquilonia for many years, in a turbulent and unquiet reign when the Hyborian civilization had reached its most magnificent high tide, and every king had imperial ambitions. At first he fought on the defensive, but I am of the opinion that at last he was forced into wars of aggression as a matter of self-preservation. Whether he succeeded in conquering a worldwide empire, or perished in the attempt, I do not know. He traveled widely, not only before his kingship, but after he was king. He traveled to Khitai and Hyrcania, and to the even less known regions north of the latter and south of the former. He even visited a nameless continent in the Western Hemisphere, and roamed among the islands adjacent to it. How much of this roaming will get into print I cannot foretell with any accuracy. I was much interested in your remarks concerning findings on the Yamal Peninsula, the first time I had heard anything about that. Doubtless Conan had first-hand acquaintance with the people who evolved the culture described, or their ancestors at least. Hope you find the Hyborian Age interesting. I'm enclosing a copy of the original map. Yes, Napoli's done very well with Conan, though at times he seems to give him a certain Latin cast of the countenance which isn't according to type as I conceive it. However, that isn't enough to kick about. Hope the enclosed data answers your questions satisfactorily. I'd be delighted to discuss any other phases you might wish, or go into more details about any point of Conan's career, or Hyborian history or geography you might desire. Thanks again for your interest, and best wishes for yourself and Dr. Clark. Cordially, Robert E. Howard. P.S. You didn't mention whether you wanted the map and chronology returned, so I'm taking the liberty of retaining them to show to some friends. If you want them back, please let me know.